This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by North Shore Community College. If you have the will to attend college, we have the way for you to earn your degree.
Good morning and welcome back to LCTV News. I'm Dani Vittori, and this week, citizens are working for those in need, education was a focus, and more. On the Lynn Lowdown, we had a member of the Mass Department of Transportation, Derek Cravat, Program Director of Beyond Mobility, the statewide long-range transportation plan. Here is the news for Friday, October 28th, 2022. On Tuesday, the 18th, more than 120 residents gathered on the steps of City Hall, calling for affordable housing to be a top priority when distributing the remaining ARPA funds. The organizations, Lynn United for Change, ECCO, and Neighbor to Neighbor also delivered a petition with over 1,500 signatures to the Mayor's office and Lynn City Council to show support for the community housing plan to be fully funded. This plan was developed by the three organizations and would fund both the acquisition and stabilization of existing affordable housing. To read the full community housing plan, go to our website, lyntv.org. The U.S. Department of Education released the National Assessment of Educational Progress for the first time since the 2018-2019 school year. Massachusetts students received the highest numerical score of any state in 2 assessments and the second highest score in the other 2. When all 4 scores are averaged, Massachusetts continues to rank first overall nationally. In 4th grade reading, Mass had the highest score of 227. In 8th grade reading, the second highest at 269. In 4th grade math, the second highest at 243. And in 8th grade math, the highest score at 284. Scores are measured on a scale of 0 to 500, and assessment tests measure 4th and 8th grade students in all 50 states. Local organization Concerned Citizens of Lynn is again collecting items for their annual drive. Last year alone, they wrapped and delivered over 4,000 gifts. They are not just looking for toys, however. They have received requests for hats, gloves, pajamas, and toiletries. There is no cutoff age limit either, so infants to teenagers can receive gifts. Both physical donations as well as monetary ones can be made. The goal of Concerned Citizens of Lynn is a nonprofit organization whose goal is to, quote, make Lynn a better, safer, and happier place, end quote. You can drop donations off at 30 Rock Street, Lynn, Mass. Lynn residents Thomas McKinn and Sean Reed will be hosting the first ever Lynn Drinksgiving Crawl for a Cause on November 12th. They will be visiting local bars to raise money to buy turkeys for those in need for the holidays. McKinn and Reed are Lynn Classical graduates and are partnering with Mike Quintana, owner of Energy, to put together this charity pub crawl. Quintana has been distributing free turkeys for a decade and has strong ties to the community, which are the main reasons McKinn and Reed chose to partner with him. As stated by Quintana, quote, "We are going on 10 years now, and we couldn't be more excited to do this for our community. We've gained community family and partnerships with so many locals who share the same mission," end quote. According to McKinn, quote, "If all goes well, I think the plan is to ultimately make this a regular event," end quote. In an attempt to help stop a potential COVID-19 outbreak this winter, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health provided hundreds of $75 Market Basket gift cards to the Lynn Community Vaccination Site, which will be distributed to all those who get vaccinated. The site opened this past Wednesday, the 26th, and the hope is that the gift cards will provide extra incentive for residents to receive vaccinations or booster shots. The clinic is one of 286 in the state who are participating in the state incentive program. Most people who went to the clinic the day it opened were not aware of the program and received a pleasant surprise when they were handed the gift card. According to school committee member Dani Coppola, quote, "We still have COVID ahead of us, and it could be a difficult winter, so get it early rather than later," end quote. The clinic is open on Wednesdays between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. and on Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and will be running until November 26th. Alternative metal band Carpathia will be releasing their debut full album on November 4th. The band consists of 4 members: Bobby Drinkwater on guitars, Samantha Alice on vocals, Jason Barsotti on drums, and Andrew Miller on bass. Drinkwater began the band, first connecting with Barsotti, then Miller. They performed as an instrumental band until January of 2017, when Alice joined the group as their vocalist. Later that year in April, the band was officially named Carpathia. They released a short album consisting of 5 songs in June of 2019. This will be their first full-length album. In a statement released by Miller, quote, "My name is Andrew Miller, and I play bass for Carpathia. I have been a Lynn resident since the summer of 2013 when I moved from my home in North Carolina. Very soon after moving here, I quickly became connected to the local rock and metal music scenes in Lynn and the surrounding areas through friendships I had made. My friend, bandmate, and creator of Carpathia, Bobby Drinkwater of Malden, Mass., was introduced to me in Lynn, and that was one of the most important moments in our music's history to me. Our ability to practice and write music in our very beginning in 2016 was made possible by our local band practice space on 10 Central Ave in downtown Lynn. Now we have our first full-length album coming out on Friday, November 4th, titled The Mooring, and I have to say, I am truly thankful to Lynn for helping facilitate my passion," end quote. Last Saturday, the 22nd, there was a Pine Hill Craft Fair at Gallagher Park. 30 vendors were spread around, selling a variety of items, from baked goods to books to handmade blankets. Here is more.
I'm the president of the Pine Hill Civic Association. We run neighborhood events, community events in the Pine Hill neighborhood, generally hosted at Gallagher Park, such as Haunted Happenings, which we had last week, and today we're here with our second annual Fall Craft Fair. We do have 30 vendors that were on the books for today. So we have a wide variety. We've got homemade blankets and quilts, we have homemade jewelry, candles, we've got some tasty treats, we've got cookies, cakes, things of that nature. We also have vendors that made tumblers, so there's an assortment, there's doll clothes, there's an assortment of items, something everybody would like. One of the things that we ask the vendor tables is that they could either pay one particular table fee or a slightly lesser table fee and give us a donated item to raffle to benefit the Pine Hill Civic Association. And so most of the vendors elect to do that, and then we're able to fill up a nice table and sell raffle tickets, and the money that we earn from those raffles goes back to Pine Hill Civic Association. So with it varies a bit, but with specific regard to the craft fair, we tend to take some of that money or most of that money and we sponsor a family in need at Christmas time that we've been able to connect with through local shelter. We appreciate everybody that's come down. We appreciate the vendors, certainly appreciate everybody that comes down and shops. It's a great way to support local business, and in a nice day like today, we'd love to see everybody that can come on out and enjoy the nice weather and enjoy the craft fair.
Later, on the 22nd, in multiple locations around the city, was Reading Without Borders. The purpose was to read books to children that show diversity and reflect those like them in a positive light. Take a look at a clip from the event.
Prevent the Psycho is a social justice organization here in Lynn that started in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd and helped organize a couple of rallies and protests in the community. They've done a lot of work around voter education and activating young people, educating them about the importance of voting in local politics. And right now we're also working on a diverse book initiative in partnership with the REAL program. So today we are here with Reading Without Borders. This is a program, a diverse book crawl, if you will. We're set up all around Lynn at different parks, offering free hot chocolate, book readings for young people, as well as activities that they can either do here or take home.
So I feel that people should take away that, there are multicultural authors, there are multicultural characters within books. Reading the book today to the young people that I read my book to, they were saying how the person in the book looks like them. They were pointing out how it looks like their brother or their sister, and that's really important to be able to see yourself within the stories, and that's what a part of this initiative is all about, is making sure that our community is seeing themselves in books and in other media.
We're here till 3. The activities go on till 3 today. So we're here at Katy Park, right outside of Lynn English High School, and there are a few more locations this afternoon that folks can go and enjoy and bring reading and enjoy reading with each other, and then bring reading home too.
On Sunday, the 23rd, My Brother's Table held their annual walk, named the 6 Million Meal Walk, in honor of them serving their 6 millionth meal to the community earlier this year. Groups from local schools, teams, and organizations came out to donate and show their support. Here's part of the event.
This is our 41st annual walk. We're actually celebrating our 6 million meals. At this walk, we've served 6 million meals. Actually, it's a little bit more than that at this point. We started in 1982. In 1981, we had our first walk, which raised money to let us open My Brother's Table, and then we've had a walk every year after that. Before the pandemic, we had served about 2.9 million meals, so we've gone to over 6 million meals since the pandemic. So we went in 2019 was our busiest year. We served about 204,000 meals, and then in 2020 during the pandemic we served about 800,000 meals, and then last year we served over 1 million meals in 1 year. The need has really grown over the course of the pandemic, and to be honest, a lot of people got a chance to learn about My Brother's Table during the pandemic, so people who had never been there before found us during the pandemic and have continued to come. So this walk raises money to keep our doors open and put food on the table, and all these people you see here are people that are helping us out. It's great.
Tuesday, the 25th at City Hall was a Proud of Our Hispanic Heritage celebration. There were speeches, performances, and tables set up giving information about Hispanic history. Take a look.
Every year in Breed Middle School, where I teach, we organize this big celebration, proud of our Hispanic heritage. This is the first year doing in Lynn Auditorium because almost 70% of the Lynn Public School students are Latinos. So 70% of the families are Latinos. And we deserve to be in a place like Lynn Memorial Auditorium. I teach Spanish for many years in secondary education, but also in college. In secondary education, I found that my teenagers, my students, they are ashamed to speak Spanish. And also is they ashamed from their ancestors. And that is very sad. It's to show people our culture, you know, it's like when Europeans came to this country, they brought with them language, religion, traditions, food. So like everyone else, you know, all immigrants, we brought with us all our pieces of culture, you know, such as food, art, music, etc. I want to encourage my people from Latino community talk to their kids in Spanish, because in English there's the school over there, but they supposed to give this present is the Spanish language.
Now for the sports update. The Lynn Classical girls soccer team defeated Lynn English 6-0 and Everett 6-1, improving their record to 14-2-1. The Bulldogs dropped to 3-11-1 with the loss. The Rams football team beat the Revere Patriots to move to 5-1 on the season. The boys soccer team is 5-6-3 and tied with Revere 2-2. The volleyball team is 8-11 after following the Swampscott Big Blue 3-1. The Lynn English Bulldogs football team posted their third straight win, shutting out Somerville by a score of 38-0, while the volleyball team is 2-11 after also defeating Somerville 3-2. Kip Academy boys soccer fell to Stoneham 1-0 last week. The football team is 3-4 and beat Whittier RVT in commanding fashion 42-6 on the 23rd. The boys soccer team is 10-6 and lost a non-conference game to Stoneham. The volleyball team is also 10-6 following a 3-2 set victory over Northeast Metro RVT. Lynn Tech Tigers volleyball is 6-9 on the season after losing 3-0 against Northeast Metro RVT. Their girls soccer team moved to 4-7-2 after beating Kip Academy 2-0. This completes a two-game season sweep as the Tigers beat Kip 6-0 earlier in the year. The St. Mary's soccer team lost 3-0 to top-ranked Bishop Fenwick. Girls soccer team then beat Bishop Stang 3-0 to finish the regular season at 11-4-2. This also completed a season sweep as the Spartans defeated Stang 3-2 earlier this month, while the boys soccer team tied with Bishop Fian 2-2, then lost to Bishop Stang 2-1 for a record also of 11-4-2. They are in second place in the Central Catholic League, just one game behind Bishop Fian. The volleyball team also lost to Bishop Fian 3-0 and have one game left in the season. The Spartans football team won 48-21 against Arlington Catholic to improve to 6-1. The New England Patriots fell to the Chicago Bears by a score of 33-14. Mac Jones was back as starting QB, but came out of the game in the first quarter after throwing his 6th interception of the year. Bailey Zappi took over for the remaining 3.5 quarters, but was only able to generate points on his first 2 possessions. The Pats did all their scoring in the first half before being held to just 14 yards of offense in the third quarter. Despite the score, the defense registered 4 sacks on the day, including 2 by Matt Judon. The Pats will now face the 5-2 New York Jets on the road next Sunday. The Boston Celtics are 3-1 after the first 2 weeks of the season. On his own, Jason Tatum has already scored over 100 points. Jaylen Brown has also played a vital role in the Celtics offense, notching 21 points and 6 rebounds in their loss against the Chicago Bulls on Monday. The Boston Bruins are 7-1 on the season and have been dominant. Taylor Hall scored with 10 seconds left in overtime to give the Bruins a 4-3 victory over the Minnesota Wild on the 22nd. Hall also scored the game winner against Anaheim that went all the way to a shootout before ending 2-1 in favor of Boston on the 20th. They knocked off the Dallas Stars 3-1 on Tuesday the 25th, thanks to goals by David Pastrnak, Patrice Bergeron, and Taylor Hall. Goalie Linus Ullmark had another 30-save night, only allowing 1 goal on 31 shots. Last night, the 27th, they beat the Detroit Red Wings in decisive fashion 5-1. They have outscored their opponents 35-21 in the first 8 games. This week on the Lynn Lowdown, we had a member of the MassDOT project manager for Beyond Mobility, the statewide long-range transportation plan. Here is the Lowdown. Good afternoon and welcome back to the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Dani Vittori, and today we have on a very special guest from MassDOT's Beyond Mobility project. Would you mind introducing yourself for us?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me, Dani. My name is Derek Cravat. I am the project manager for our statewide long-range transportation plan called Beyond Mobility.
Great, and would you mind just give a quick overview of what Beyond Mobility is? Like, if you sum it up, what are its main goals?
Sure, yeah. So it is a goal-setting process. So the goal for Beyond Mobility is to set a series of strategic goals for MassDOT for the next, I'd say, 30 years as an agency, although the plan will get likely updated sometime before that in the future. But the plan challenges us to think about what we want the future of transportation to look like in Massachusetts in 2050, and then work backwards from there to identify what actions MassDOT should be taking now to achieve those goals and address that ideal vision for the future of transportation. So we'll be setting goals in a variety of different areas, like in safety and reliability and access to different destinations, things like that, where we'll be setting goals for MassDOT to achieve and identifying what actions we need to take to get there.
Right. I didn't realize that you worked kind of backwards, like you said. I guess that makes sense, but I hadn't thought about it that way. Because when you think about it, 2050 seems so far away, but it's not really.
Right,
in terms of progress.
Yes, yeah. It's almost like a thought experiment of thinking where we want to be, and then, of course, the actions we take now have really long-term implications, especially working in a field like transportation where infrastructure stays around for a really long time. So the infrastructure we build today will have really important implications for the future, 2050 and beyond. And so we're trying to envision that future and get us there the best way we can with our strategies that we implement now.
Definitely. So I'll ask, as the project manager, what's your role in the process? What do you do?
Sure, yeah, so I work with our team within the Massachusetts Department of Transportation to direct the project. We have a scope of work, so we have a number of work tasks that go into the plan. So of course there are administrative things like keeping the project on schedule and on budget. The plan is set to be wrapped up in December of 2023, so we're working kind of toward that deadline. So we try to keep all the tasks in the scope of work on track, so we're doing a lot of public outreach. That's a really central part of the plan. And I know we did a community activation here in Lynn, which was great. And so we're trying to really get the word out and meet people where they are, go into communities and ask people what they think about the future of transportation. So our role and sort of the project management role is to really direct a lot of that public outreach work, define what activities we want to do, how we're going to incorporate public input into the plan, and also complement that work with some other analyses that we do. So we're looking at a lot of data that we have at MassDOT and using that all to define what our goals should be and how we're going to use data to measure progress toward achieving those goals. So the management role is taking all these different areas and trying to combine them in a way that is cohesive and leads to a final product and a plan that articulates MassDOT's vision, our goals, and defines how we're going to get there.
Makes sense to me. Sounds like a good way to do it. And you'd mentioned public outreach. One thing that you've been doing is a survey, like through your website. So what specific information do you hope to get through the survey? Like, what are you asking?
Sure. Yeah, so the kind of core part of the survey asks respondents to assign value to different programs that we have at MassDOT. So there's 3 overarching areas that we ask about in the survey. One is roadway improvements, another is transit-related improvements, and the third is kind of other transportation system improvements that is sort of a catch-all. And so we, of course, have a variety of different programs at MassDOT that we invest our state and federal funding in. And so we're looking in the survey to see whether the public's needs are aligned with how much we are kind of putting into those different funding buckets. So we ask about things like electric vehicle charging infrastructure or sidewalk improvements or bicycle lanes and things like that. And taking that input and seeing, first of all, whether it aligns with the kind of funding levels we have for those different types of activities in our capital plan. And secondly, if there are concentrations of respondents that are maybe in specific areas that need infrastructure in one area more than others. So as part of the survey, we also ask demographic questions. So we're asking respondents to provide their zip code and other demographic indicators so we can say maybe, you know, we heard from Western Massachusetts or from the North Shore area here are the biggest priorities facing those communities, and then being able to go to decision makers there or our MassDOT district offices or others working more regionally to say, here's what we heard back from folks in those communities as what their greatest needs are for transportation, and here are some steps we can take to help us better get there. So we're really looking for overall just sense of priority from the public on those different categories that we have in our capital plan, and seeing if there are any kind of patterns or trends within that data to sort of direct our future spending.
Definitely. And where would people go about finding this survey?
Yep, so the survey is posted on our website. They can go to mass.gov/beyond-mobility. And on that webpage, we have our survey linked for folks to be able to take. And so we hope to get a number of responses from all over the Commonwealth. We're hoping for over 2,000, so we're close to that goal, but any more would be great, especially to make sure we're sufficiently capturing input from all residents, including here in Lynn.
Yeah, definitely. And since you did mention Lynn, and since we are located in Lynn, how would you say this project would affect a city like Lynn specifically?
Yeah.
What are you looking at?
Absolutely. Yeah, so as part of our kind of goal setting process for the plan, we are looking at data on a variety of different things, including safety and environmental impact and transit connectivity. So the plan will not necessarily list specific project locations or get into directing funding. That's really what our capital plan does. But it will say, for example, that MassDOT has a goal to minimize maybe a disproportionate impact of the number of crashes that are in our gateway cities like Lynn and other cities in Massachusetts, and make sure that there's not a disproportionate impact of crashes or other kind of transportation indicators. And just looking at maps online and things like that, there are a number of top 200 crash locations, unfortunately, in Lynn, and that's a goal that we have as an agency, that we need to be looking at those top crash locations or other kinds of indicators that might be, disproportionately impacting Lynn and other communities across Massachusetts. So, we'll say that that's a high-level goal, and then look at locations that might be driving those trends and say, there might be a need to invest more at these locations in the future, and then that's where our capital plan will direct resources. So we're really trying to define at a high level what the needs are, and then look at which areas might be most critical to invest in. And there are a number of sort of data points that we look at, and Lynn may certainly pop up on the map as far as kind of in need of resources, and so that could certainly impact the plan down the line as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would work. And I'll pivot slightly to ask, beyond mobility, you're building on kind of previous plans that go to, freight, bike, rail, all different forms of transportation. Are you looking to sort of create one almost cohesive plan that envelops all of them, or how are you using them?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the plan definitely does not exist in a vacuum, and we're definitely being intentional about incorporating recommendations and things like that from other plans. So part of our scope of work involves creating what we're calling a plan inventory of all existing plan recommendations. So we're putting this all on an online map, so we're mapping out what different plans have said MassDOT should be doing in the areas of bike and pedestrian activity or freight movement, and saying, here's where these plans have recommended certain things, and here's where MassDOT has not yet actually implemented some of those recommendations, so we can almost do like a status check on existing modal plans and things like that as part of this effort, and then say, given where there might be existing recommendations not yet met, or maybe things have changed slightly since those plans, we might want to recommend something that builds on it or moves in a different direction, and use this as an opportunity to kind of reflect on where we are with those plans, what still is left to implement, and how we want to build on them going forward. And those plans might also get updated in the future, so this plan could serve as a sort of direction for those to take too. So if we set certain goals in this plan, that could help inform the next iteration of the modal planning and other types of plans, policies that MassDOT takes in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And my last question for you would be, you list, as you've said, so many factors that affect transportation. It can be climate change, people, where you are. Do you think that certain factors have, not more importance, but they tend to affect it more than others? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So as part of the plan, we're doing an exercise called scenario planning. So we're looking at different trends that are sort of out of our control, that we nonetheless have to plan for. So of course, climate change is a big one, as is telework. I think that will have some of the largest impact on the transportation system out of all the trends we're seeing. So, the ability, and, of course we learned this during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of sectors do have the ability to work from home, and we're seeing that kind of play out. There are projections that show, there are mixed kind of trends, but a lot of the indicators show that there will almost certainly be more telework in the future, and that we were already seeing it kind of tick up slowly, but now with the pandemic, it's kind of accelerated that shift, and so that will definitely have implications for us, thinking about maybe people moving farther away from downtown centers, and when they do have to maybe commute to work, what the implications are for things like commuter rail ridership or subway ridership, or things like traffic patterns changing midday, and things like that just being different than what we're used to. So I'd say that's a really big one that we'll have to factor into future planning, is how telework impacts the sort of network. And of course, climate change, with increased flooding and droughts and things like that, of course, affect the condition of roads and our transit stations and all of that. So that's something we're making sure we're coordinated with the Clean Energy and Climate Plan that the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs has developed. And so, we'll be sure the plan is consistent with that. But that's all, of course, impacting the future of transportation too, and so we'll have to be mindful of that as we think about future investments. So those are two big ones that come to mind as far as kind of future trends that impact transportation.
Yeah, it really sounds like it. And I said the plan, the program itself is very impressive, the little bit I've been able to read. So
yeah,
thank you for coming on to talk about it with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Definitely encourage folks to go online and take our survey. Again, the website is mass.gov/beyond-mobility. And we're just hoping to hear from as many people as possible to help shape the plan and make sure we're accounting for everybody's input. But yeah, thank you.
Of course, thank you. That sounds like a great plan. And I'm Dani Vittori. Once again, this is the Lynn Lowdown, and we will see you next week with more guests. Now for the community calendar. Halloween at City Hall will be taking place on Tuesday, November 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. Go to the 4th floor of City Hall to participate in pumpkin painting, goodie bags, and other kid-friendly activities. A free event for anyone to take part in. On Tuesday, November 2nd, there will be a public meeting on the closure of the MBTA station, taking place in the council chambers of City Hall and being live streamed. Come to get updates and ask questions. Also, on November 2nd, there will be a public viewing night at the High Rock Tower Observatory. From 6:30 to 8 p.m., residents can take a look at the telescope, as well as additional equipment used to watch the sky and keep the observatory running. To learn more about these events and all events happening around the city, head to lyntv.org/events. That is all the news for this week. To stay up to date on all the latest news and videos, follow us on social media at Lynn Community Television. Also, subscribe to our YouTube page, Lynn Community Television, where we post all videos. And go to our website, lyntv.org, to see all the latest press releases, community calendar, and news videos. I'm Dani Vittori, this is LCTV News, and we will see you next week.
This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by North Shore Community College. If you have the will to attend college, we have the way for you to earn your degree.